So, what we've got is Ben Shapiro versus Nick Fuentes. Man, what a showdown. I'm sure you've been following this because it's been a saga, my friends. I mean, the whole situation and animosity between Ben Shapiro, conservative commentator, I believe he's like a conservative libertarian, if I remember right. Regardless, political commentator, debater, founder of the Daily Wire. We know who Ben Shapiro is. And he has had a feud with Nick Fuentes, I think ever since Nick Fuentes was freaking 18, for what I remember, having looked into this. And Nick Fuentes himself has had very strong clashes against Ben Shapiro. The way I understand it, generally speaking, their animosity began due to Israel as the main reason, but I don't think that's the only thing there is to it. I've looked into it. That's, I believe, where the situation first started to go astray, if you will. And so the two have been making videos again because Nick Fuentes has been getting a lot of attention lately, garnishing a lot of views, not only on YouTube, but also on X. He has been making posts, and every single post he makes gets millions of views. And of course, we have had the Tucker Carlson interview, which I've already covered on a dedicated video. If you want, you'll find a link in the description, which of course has created a lot of, let's call it, opinionated takes. Both on the left, because of course the left absolutely despises Nick Fuentes, but at the same time dividing the right, because on the right wing there are people that support Nick Fuentes and there are people that absolutely despise him. And of course, as I say, one of these people that despise him is Ben Shapiro. Now, he made this video, Tucker Carlson Sabotages America. As you can see, I've already watched the whole thing, 41 minutes, pretty long, by Ben Shapiro, and I will put a link in the description. The video getting almost 1 million views, where Ben Shapiro not only attacks Nick Fuentes, but also attacks Tucker Carlson specifically. In fact, it's a kind of a special episode. It's episode 2309, but the entire episode is dedicated to this, whereas usually Ben Shapiro doesn't do that. Nick Fuentes, however, did respond in kind on his platforms, attacking Ben Shapiro back and going full force. Personally, I think at least when it comes to this kind of situation, I am in a position where I can present a commentary and give my opinions without having to jump into name calling, which is what I usually do, in the sense that I try to keep emotions out of it and try to look at the statements in isolation. And then after I have reviewed the veracity of the data that has been shared or the positions that people have, both in terms of, is this the truth? So you do research, but at the same time also to see if there is any logical inconsistencies within any given idea that is being presented. And then I take these and contextualize them into the broader topic, which in this case has to do with the kind of personality and the kind of history that these two content creators have. Now, I've shared this a few times already. When it comes to Nick Fuentes, there are plenty of things that he said that I strongly oppose. Obviously, you will also find things that I agree with him. Like when he says America first, I agree. Yeah, America first, absolutely. I think that that's a very valid statement to make. Whenever he fights against the radical left and the way they attack white people, and he says we need to be pro-white, I agree with that. Whenever he speaks about immigration, generally I agree, at least when it comes to illegal immigration, although sometimes he extends too far. But of course, the main problems that I have with Nick Fuentes personally, and I know that some of you in the comments will come here and tell me Nick is based. Fine, if that's what you believe, that's okay. And I know that some of you will come here and say Nick would destroy you. Whatever, great. Congratulations, you behaved like a 12-year-old. But what I'm trying to do here is saying this. I would absolutely have nothing against having a conversation with Nick Fuentes. But the thing is that regardless of all the different areas of overlap that we can find between my beliefs and his beliefs, as you know, I'm very proud of being European. I'm very proud of European history. I'm very proud of European achievements. And I am strongly against everyone who tries to put down or be racist against white people. At the same time, I just can't get over all the Hitler stuff. Okay, I'm just gonna say, I'm not asking him to not say what he wants to say. In fact, the people that ask him to do that, just drop it at this point. What's the point? The guy is unapologetically saying and doubling down on all the things that made him rather controversial, including within the at least moderate right. So his entire Team Hitler situation, in conjunction with some of the statements he made about like black people needed to be put in jail, and then he said for the most part he qualified, and his vehement anti-Semitism, trademark. I'll get back to this word because it's misused in a way that is insane, and Ben Shapiro is absolutely guilty of that. These are really the things that kind of put me off into becoming someone who's like, Nick Fuentes is based. He is based on some of the things he says, absolutely. But then he loses me when he goes into his extremes, because I absolutely hate Nazism. I hate all forms of totalitarian regimes. I despise Stalin and communism. So the fact that he praises Stalin, it's another massive problem with me. And yes, you can justify and say he means that he was a great man historically. And I'm like, yeah, but then he also has a clip where he says it's his hero. So, like, I'm sorry. But then again, on the same sentence, he's also saying that he believes that Stalin is burning in hell. So if you're a Christian, how is someone who is, in your own words, burning in hell, which I totally agree with, by the way, how is he also your hero? So, like, I believe he's a totalitarian. That's how I interpret that. He must be a totalitarian at that point, someone who believes that totalitarianism, so like one party, perhaps one party rule and that kind of situation, is the answer to the radical left wing and the stuff they do and the shooting of Charlie Kirk and that kind of situation. I know he has a history with Charlie Kirk. Some of the things he said about Charlie Kirk, I'm not a huge fan of. But that's his own right to believe that. It's not like he has to agree with me necessarily. I'm just trying to come to you to tell you, even though I am someone who will absolutely white knight, white in all caps, for white people, and I always will, because it's the only form of racism that is tolerated in the West, being anti-white, and everyone is like, oh, you're so good, and that pisses me off. So whenever he fights against that, I will agree with Nick Fuentes, but at the same time, there are just some other things that I just can't connect with. And so I think it's better for me to just say it, rather than doing what other people on the conservative right do, which is try to find excuses for him, trying to tell him, but you don't really mean that you are pro-Hitler, right? You don't actually mean it. You're just being edgy, right? But you don't mean it, right? And I'm like, come on, that's condescending at this point. Because then the guy doubles down because he's unapologetic. And at this point, I prefer someone to be unapologetic, so at least they're honest and transparent, even though the things they are saying profoundly disturb me. My own grandfather in Italy was kidnapped by Nazi soldiers and brought to the Dachau concentration camp, which is the concentration camp that was used specifically for people that were considered political enemies, so people by the regime. So no, I guess I am biased from that point of view when it comes to my anti-Nazi sentiment, but it is what it is. So when someone says he's Team Hitler or praises the likes of the Austrian painter, then yeah, I will disagree with that, and I will always disagree with that, and it is what it is. But I think at least I'm treating him like a man, because this idea of, maybe he didn't mean it, no, are you sure? Maybe he's just being edgy. He's not being edgy, he's telling you what he believes. The whole situation with Ben Shapiro, personally, I think people on the right should continue to speak about this, should not push for deplatforming people simply because they have weird ideas or ideas that offend you, because then you're doing the same thing that the radical left does. And that's wrong. At least that's my position. Identifies those aspects of his positions and rhetoric that you think are bad ideas and defeat them within the free market of ideas. Use your freedom of speech. If his ideas are so weak and so bad, then it should be really easy for you to attack them and approach them logically. And in fact, that's what I think more people on the right should do, because then again, I know Ben Shapiro is trying to do that, but Ben Shapiro is a little compromised when it comes to this, because it's a little bit, there is a conflict of interest. So I don't think Ben Shapiro is the guy who should approach this. So this for me is just a little introductory thing, but I do need to say that. I think Ben Shapiro has his biases, and they are very strong. And so anything Ben Shapiro is going to say, Nick Fuentes is going to respond and say, Ben Shapiro, will you say America first? And he will defeat him every time. And Americans will connect to that. They will. Which is why I think this is not the versus we need. We need someone on the right who is not going to use left-wing tactics, deplatforming and canceling, hate speech. Do you remember the whole situation with hate speech with Pam Bondi? I'm so glad she got fired. She got fired, right? Because, I mean, what are you doing? And I am someone who absolutely, I went on a full-on Deus Vult crusade against all those maniac progressives that were laughing at Charlie Kirk's death and were pushing for more violence to be cast upon his children and family. I went on a crusade, and you guys know that. With that being said, when Pam Bondi was like, if you laugh at it, we will send the boots on the ground, we'll send the SWAT teams in your house. No. Hold on a minute. You have to differentiate. Ugly speech is protected speech. I want people in America to be able to say horrible things about Charlie Kirk, even though I liked Charlie Kirk and I supported, and I will support him forever, considering what he died for. But I wouldn't send the police just because people are laughing. The only case in which I would have government intervention is for direct threats to violence and incitement to violence. Because that's how the law is. This is America. So what Pam Bondi was trying to do was unconstitutional, and I believe that some of the things, some of the attack lines that people have been using against Nick Fuentes, not only on the left, but also on the right, are unconstitutional. So let the guy say whatever the heck he wants, as long as they are not direct calls for violence. If he starts doing the same kinds of a direct calls to violence and incitement to violence that Destiny and Hassan do, then I will say, hey, someone needs to do something about this. But ugly speech, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to do that. There's no such a thing as hate speech legally in this country, and it should stay like this. And I'm surprised by right people that say they are conservatives, but then they push for hate speech laws, government intervention, and full-on cancellation of people because of hate speech. What are we doing? Are we supposed to be for small government, for freedom of speech? Then behave like it. Attack is speech, but also be in a position where you can recognize when the guy's right. Because someone is right. If someone says 2 + 2 = 4, I'm not going to say it's right only after checking who said it. 2 + 2 = 4 regardless of who said it. But a lot of people, I think what they're doing is, in this specific political climate, is that what they do is they look at 2 + 2 = 4. They know it's right, but before they agree with the statement, they have to see, but who is saying it? Oh, wait, it's Matt Walsh saying it? Yeah, I'll agree. Is it Nick Fuentes? No. Is it Milo? No, well then no, I'm not going to say I agree. No, I will say that I agree. And I've said it even with freaking Piker, and I cannot stand him. But if he says something and I agree with it, I can still say he's right on this. Still a piece of shit, but he's right on this. And not only this idea of, oh no, we need to deplatform him, he shouldn't be able to allow to have even a microphone, no one should platform him. You know what that does? It creates a martyr. It gives him more power, because then he can use the card, which is a tactical card. He can use the card of, they tried to cancel me. I need your support, guys. Boom. And he has got another 1,000 Patreons, and he's got another situation where more followers, more people that will see that. And then they will think, oh, so you said you were right-wing, but you're doing the same thing the left does. It doesn't work. So I would say just drop that and attack the ideas. And also, let's try to find someone who can have a full-on political debate that is talented, unbiased, and knows how to address this the proper way, the way that we have been defending this entire time. And as you know, this is not the first time. I remember him at PBD. I remember him at the PBD podcast, is it? And interviewing Nick Fuentes, and already people were exploding all over the place. No, why are you platforming him? He's a neo-Nazi and all this and that and this and that. And then what did that do? But think about it. What did it do? It did this. It led to the other interview. I don't respect bad strategy. It doesn't matter who does it. My side, your side, no side at all. Bad strategy just makes me cringe. Because as you see, they did what they did. It didn't work. And it went even more viral. Just like I said with the other intellectual opponents that I've had, just like the other people and also the other famous people that I've criticized, Destiny, Hassan, I can't stand them. I really cannot stand them, and I think they are objectively evil. But I also hope in my heart that they will change, that they will see what they did wrong, and they will stop the nonsense. I'm not saying that I'm wanting Hassan and Destiny to become right-wing or to become centrists. Maybe centrists wouldn't be a bad idea, but whatever. No. Stay left-wing. But drop the nonsense. Drop the violence. Drop the freaking lies. Likewise, I personally wouldn't have a problem speaking to Nick Fuentes, because who knows? Maybe if I can present some strong, logical counter-arguments that are not based on ad hominem, are not based on personal attacks, perhaps that could change his mind. But I'm not a debater, which is why I'm saying, even though I would do it, I would totally talk to the guy, but maybe I'm not the person that should do it. So who should do it? That's what I'm asking you. Who do you think? Should we have an Andrew Wilson talk to Nick Fuentes? Should we have a Matt Walsh talk to him? Although then again, Matt Walsh does work for Ben Shapiro, so is that going to be bias and bias? I don't know. Who do you think on the right would be the best intellectual opponent to discuss with Nick Fuentes? Because all you really need to do is to address both the good positions that he has and the extremist positions that he has. Because I personally believe, and this is me, you can disagree with this if you want, but I do believe that in this day and age, we don't need more extremism. Because a lot of the evil that has happened, that I fought with, that at the end of the day ended up not only with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, but the shootings at churches and all this stuff, this is all the result of radical left-wing extremism. But definitely we don't need right-wing extremism to disconnect from this climate of violence. Because in my opinion, a moderate right-wing position that stays true to its core is the strongest possible stance that we can have against the radical leftists. When they break the law and they start shooting people, or they call for public violence, we intervene with the full force of the law. I don't even know why it hasn't happened with the likes of Piker, but you know what I mean. And then when it comes to their positions and hateful rhetoric, we can discuss and attack from a position of moderate conservatism, not freaking Hail Hitler stuff. Because a moderate, logical, and intelligent position can win the popular vote. It happened in this election, didn't it? They kept screaming Nazi, fascist, racist, and they lost. On the other side, if we put extreme versus extreme, it brings to civil war. And personally, I don't want to see that. But that's just me. Please let me know what you think. Agree, disagree, be civil, or don't. It's all engagement after all. Thank you for watching.